Oh yeah, it's spooky time. The Halloween season is all about vampires, ghosts.
Just then I captured this creepy EVP.
You standing right in front of me, Raymond, because I'm not afraid of you.
Ghouls, and monsters. But today, we're talking about angels and demons. So how bad is Constantine's 2005 film adaptation? It's not. Before we talk about the movie itself, I want to talk about how this movie came to be.
Hi. My name's John.
So this movie was in the works since the late 90s, going from director to director before finally landing on Francis Lawrence in the early 2000s. He would later be known for directing I Am Legend, Red Sparrow, and the Hunger Games movies, but this was his film debut. Also, the movie's title was changed from Hellblazer, the name of the comic, to Constantine, so it wouldn't be confused with Clive Barker's Hellraiser movies. And Alan Moore, one of the co-creators of Hellblazer, was so disappointed with previous adaptations of his work that he didn't want to be credited or have his name associated with the project at all, and wanted his royalties to be distributed amongst the other creators. A practice that I'm pretty sure he continues to this day. John Constantine is being played by Keanu Reeves. Side note, Nicolas Cage was also in talks for the role, but he stepped down. There's a fun little tidbit information to go tell your friends. But most of the cast is filled with some pretty solid actors, and a very young Shia LaBeouf before he went crazy.
How you doing?
Do it!
Now, I'm not going to judge this movie based on how well it adapted John Constantine from the Hellblazer comics, mainly because I don't know that much about them, but instead just focus on how it is as a movie, although I will mention that they did change several things from the source material. The most obvious being that John is no longer a blonde Englishman living in Liverpool that looks like Sting. Instead, he's a dark-haired American living in LA. Also, his backstory has changed, and it doesn't explore how he uses magic, and instead just shows glimpses of what he can do. Now, with all that out of the way, how was the movie?
Not bad.
I remember liking it a lot back when it first came out, and I was also a big fan of the tie-in video game that was released around the same time.
For your boss.
I was a kid, not a very smart one, but rewatching this film for the first time in years, and I gotta admit, I still enjoy it. The story follows John Constantine, a demon hunter who is trying to earn enough goodwill to get into heaven, since he's condemned to be sent to hell because of committing suicide when he was younger, but was revived by paramedics 2 minutes later. He was born with the ability to see angels and demons, and while helping a detective investigate her twin sister's suicide, they discover that there's a bigger plan here that involves half-breed demons, an archangel, and the son of the devil. One thing I remembered immediately upon rewatching is just how slow this movie is, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because there are times where these slow sections are used well, either for cool character interactions or to reveal plot details. But there are definitely a few times where you just want something to happen. But the whole plot is slowly revealed to you as the main and side characters uncover more clues. My favorite thing about this movie is Constantine. He's an anti-hero doing the right thing, but for a selfish reason. He has a very cynical outlook on life.
God's a kid with an ant farm, lady. He's not planning anything.
And sometimes he's just a dick.
Well, I thought that with your background, you could at least point me in the right direction.
Yeah, okay, sure.
He's a guy who's trying to maintain balance on their plane by sending demons back to hell, and keeping half-breeds in check. And he has the power to do it, so it's the right thing to do, but again, he's only doing it to try to make sure he goes to heaven. This isn't until towards the end when he makes a deal with the devil to send Angela's sister to heaven and he will take her place in hell. And by spending more time with Angela, he learns humility. Keanu Reeves plays him with a cold and calm demeanor, and this works sometimes, because some of his line deliveries come off as more bored and disinterested.
Why haven't I served him enough? What does he want from me?
But there are some great lines, so I think it kind of balances itself out. But overall, I enjoy seeing Constantine's change from an anti-hero to a hero towards the end. Now, the CGI doesn't look completely terrible. I'm serious, some of the shots of the scavenger demons look okay even 15 years later. I liked Hell the few times we got to actually see it, but not everything looks great though. And the action is sparse, but when it does happen, it's pretty awesome. Just getting there takes some time, and I wish there was more of it. But I think the weakest part of this whole movie are the side characters. You only see them for a few scenes before they're killed off, so their deaths don't have much impact. So when John was upset and getting geared up to send demons back to hell, I didn't feel the same way. Also, Shia LaBeouf's character is just gone for most of the movie. I actually forgot for a moment that he was in it until he popped up at the end. There are a bunch of deleted scenes that show more of these characters and a more look into John's life, but they were cut, I imagine for the runtime. I feel like some of these could have been left in to help us feel something when these characters meet their end, and I think showing more of John's suicide when he was younger would have made the climax at the end more impactful, since just like when he was younger, he cut his wrist to die, showing that 20 years later he did the same thing but for a different reason. So it's a bummer that a lot of this stuff was left out, but a thing that annoys me the most about this movie is the sound mixing. There are a lot of scenes where the music will overpower the dialogue, making it hard to hear them. But most scenes, everyone talks in like a whisper, making it hard to hear them anyway. This caused me to miss a few plot details, so it's best to watch with subtitles on. There's also a bunch of little nitpicks that annoy me but don't ruin the movie.
Balls or not, man, I would so hit that.
Like a car driving full speed in the middle of the desert and you can't hear it. Makes sense. The son of the devil's design is lackluster and boring. He doesn't stand out much from these little ones. This security camera angle doesn't make any sense and shouldn't be able to get the same angle as we saw in the beginning. Why would Shia LaBeouf shoot this? It has a flammable symbol on it.
Do you know how a firearm works?
How does Balthazar drop his coin? It doesn't show him approaching the guy, and he's found in the chair, so I imagine there wasn't much of a struggle. How did the coin end up there? So Gabriel opens her wings with Angela right there, and this scene caused confusion for me later on. She doesn't believe what Constantine says about different planes with heaven and hell, and she sees demons for the first time, and she's shocked. This confused me because I thought she saw Gabriel's wings open up and knew about this world. So then I was thinking maybe it's just people born with a special power who can see it. But then it's revealed later on that just like her sister, Angela is also psychic and can see these things too. But unlike her sister, she ignored it and didn't tell anybody. This just puzzles me. At the end, how does the devil not know that his son is planning to cross over to make his own kingdom? Also, this is a very small thing, but this is one of the most tamed rated R movies I've ever seen. I actually didn't notice it was R until I looked it up. They only dropped the F-bomb once and there's barely any blood. Also, there's no nudity or sex. I just think that since it got the rating, it should have went all out with the horror imagery. Could have showed more grotesque looking demons or people getting tortured in hell. Ramp up the violence. I mean, take a look at Blade. That's an R-rated comic book movie and it goes all out. Box office wise, it made $200 million with a nearly $100 million budget, so not exactly a hit. The reviews are mixed with most giving it an average score, but for me personally, I think it's better than average. It could be a mixture of nostalgia and also being a big fan of Keanu Reeves, but I genuinely enjoy most of this movie. And considering that it came out in the early 2000s when a lot of superhero movies sucked and were seen as either goofy or cheesy, I think this one stood out above the others with its unique dark and serious tone with supernatural elements. And I even asked you guys what you thought of the movie, and most of you really enjoyed it, saying that it's actually really underrated. And I somewhat agree. I don't think it's nearly as bad as some people say it is. There's a lot of things that I enjoyed in it. I enjoyed the world building that we get to see through Angela interacting with Constantine. I enjoy Constantine's journey from anti-hero to hero. And Peter Stormare as the devil was just fun. Dude's a hell of an actor. I've also seen people say that they enjoy this movie as a loose adaptation of the character, in the same way that they enjoy Tim Burton's Batman movies. But some people also describe it as a love it or hate it type of movie. I think it sets up an interesting world that would have been cool to explore in like future sequels, but consider it's been 15 years, I don't think we're gonna get that anytime soon. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain this is one of the first superhero movies to actually do the end credits scene. Yeah, at the very end, after the credits, you see Chaz rise up again as a half-breed angel. I didn't find this out until like a decade later. The movie has a lot of neat ideas, I just wish they were further explored. I also found the soundtrack to be pretty forgettable. I was watching the movie, none of the music really stuck out to me. I mean, I could hear it, there were scenes where it was just as loud as the dialogue. I just don't find any of it memorable. So I don't like this movie as much as I did a decade ago, but I still enjoy it. So go ahead, leave a comment, let me know what you think of Constantine. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, go and drop a like on it. And if you want, you can follow me on Twitter, link down below. Thanks for watching. Go to hell.
You're the one soul I would come up here to collect myself.